Hi boys and girls, welcome to our week of math videos. This week we are going to be talking about geometry. We're going to be working with shapes, 2D shapes, 3D shapes, lines, angles. You're going to really love this. And today is day 1 of our week of videos for June 1 through 5. Okay, so we're going to come over to the whiteboard and I'm going to show you something. So this, I want you to look at what I drew here, and then I want you to look at what I drew here. This is a line. This is a shape. What is the difference between a line and a shape? Well, a line doesn't really have a shape. It's just kind of like one side. This is a shape, and it's made up of 4 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's what we call a closed shape. There's no opening. If we took away one of the sides, that would no longer be a shape. That's just 3 lines. In order to be a shape, it has to be closed in. There can't be any openings. So this is just a line. Here's a shape made out of 4 lines or 4 sides. And here's a shape made out of 3 lines or 3 sides. Now I'm going to show you some other shapes that I have set up down here. I want you to look at this board of all the different things that we have here. So these shapes are different. We have 2 different kinds of shapes down here. We have 2-dimensional shapes and 3-dimensional shapes. Now the dimensions are length, width, and height. So shapes that are 2-dimensional only have 2 of those, and shapes that are 3-dimensional have all 3. They have length, width, and height. So let's take this shape, for example. Is this a 2-dimensional shape or a 3-dimensional shape? This is a 3-dimensional shape because it has length, it has width, and it has height. It has 3 dimensions. Let's look at this shape. These are kind of similar, aren't they? Except this one is a 2-dimensional rectangle, and this is a 3-dimensional rectangular prism. The 2-dimensional shape has length, and it has width, but it doesn't have any height because it's flat. So 2-dimensional shapes are flat. 3-dimensional shapes, we can actually pick them up and we can see all 3 dimensions. So we have all sorts of 2D and 3D shapes here. When we pick up a 3-dimensional shape, such as this one is called a cylinder. And it's the same shape as a soup can or a soda can. Those are in the shape of a cylinder. Now, when we look at this 3-dimensional shape, we can see that it has faces. Here's one face. On the other side is the other face. And the faces on this shape are in the shape of a circle. So 3-dimensional shapes have faces. This one is called a cube. It's like the shape of a die or one of a pair of dice. And you can see all the faces, the flat sides, and they're all the same shape on this. They're all made up of squares. If I look at just one face, I can see the square. Now these shapes, here is a square that is 2-dimensional. So you can see that it has length, and width. It doesn't have height because it's flat. Now these shapes have sides. This shape has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. Other shapes have different amounts of sides. So for example, this shape has 1, 2, 3, 4. This one's called a rhombus. It's kind of like diamond shaped. this shape here is called a circle. It doesn't have any straight lines, but it's still a shape because it's a closed figure. It doesn't have any openings, so it's still a shape. It's round. It doesn't have any straight lines. That one is called a circle. So look at this shape here. Is this two-dimensional or three-dimensional? It's flat, so it's two-dimensional, and this one is a square. Check out this shape here. 2D or 3D? This is 2D because it is a flat one. And this one is called a trapezoid. Trapezoid has 4 sides. This one here is two-dimensional, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. So this is called a hexagon. This two-dimensional shape has 5 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's called a pentagon. Now let's check out some of our three-dimensional shapes. This one is called a cone. You can see when I flip it over and I look at this face, it's in the shape of a circle. That's a cone. This one is called a pyramid. You can see the bottom face is a square, and then all the other faces of it are triangles. That's called a pyramid. Here's one. This one is called a triangular prism. And you can see that this face is a triangle, this face is a triangle, and then all the other faces are made up of squares. Here's the cube that we talked about. All the faces are the same size and they're all squares. You know the name of this one? This one's in the shape of a ball, like the shape of the earth. We call this shape a sphere. As a 3D shape called a sphere. Okay, so you can clearly see the difference between 2D and 3D. Two-dimensional shapes are the flat shapes, and three-dimensional shapes are the shapes that have length, width, and height. They're not flat. Okay, so I am going to set up a You Try activity. So I'm going to pause my camera and I'll be right back. Okay, so here is the activity I would like you to try. So up the top it says, you try. Sort the shapes into the groups of 2D and 3D. Remember, 2D means two-dimensional, 3D means three-dimensional. So here I have a selection of two-dimensional shapes and three-dimensional shapes. I have a square, the green square, this blue cylinder, a red rectangle, a yellow rectangular prism, a purple circle, a green cube, a red sphere, and an orange pentagon. So you're going to look at the names of the shapes and you're going to put them under the right category. So on a separate piece of paper you can write 2D, and you can write the names of the 4 two-dimensional shapes, and then write 3D and write the names of the 4 three-dimensional shapes. I'm going to zoom in closer so you can see these shapes. So there are your shapes. Sort them into two-dimensional and three-dimensional. All right, that's the end of day 1. See you on day 2. Welcome back to day 2 and our work with geometry. We're talking about two-dimensional shapes and three-dimensional shapes. So yesterday we talked about the difference between 2D and 3D. So I have 2 shapes here. I want to know which one of these is the two-dimensional shape. Is the cylinder two-dimensional, or is this green pentagon? No, this is a hexagon. Is this green hexagon the two-dimensional shape? Which one's 2D? You said that this one, the green hexagon, is 2D. You're correct. How do we know that this is two-dimensional And how do we know that this is three-dimensional? Well, an attribute is one way of identifying the type of shape that it is. So an attribute is like a characteristic of it. So what characteristic or attribute about this tells you it's 2D? Well, the one word that I think of when I look at this is flat. Two-dimensional shapes are flat, and this is on a flat piece of paper, so you can't get much flatter than that. 2D shapes are flat. What makes this three-dimensional? Well, it has length and width and height. It has 3 dimensions. We can see how long it is, how wide it is, and how tall it is. It's 3-dimensional. It's not flat. Okay, so that's what we worked on yesterday, and we sorted some shapes. So today we're just going to focus on some 2-dimensional shapes. So up here on the board, I have a selection of some different 2-dimensional shapes. And we are going to work on naming them and describing them. So, looking at these shapes, you might already know some of the names of these shapes. Which one of these is a square? Which color is the square and which one is the square? If you said this one, you are correct. So I am going to bring this one up here, and I'm going to write the word square next to it. So this one is a square. And a square is easily identified because it has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, and all the sides are the same length. Which one of these is the trapezoid? Do you know what a trapezoid is? Here's a trapezoid right here. This is a trapezoid. I'm going to write that word. Now a trapezoid also has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. But does it look the same as a square? It's not. It's not the same shape as a square. When you learn more about shapes, you're going to learn about parallel sides. And you can see that these lines are called parallel, which means if they were longer, they would never cross. And if these two lines were longer, eventually they would cross. So this is called a trapezoid. It also has 4 sides. But the way the sides are is what makes it different than a square. Which one of these is the circle? You find the circle? You said this purple shape. You are correct. Now what's special about a circle is that it doesn't have any straight lines. A word that I would use to describe this, or an attribute, would be round. This is round. It doesn't have any straight lines in it. Which one of these shapes is a rhombus? A rhombus is shaped sort of like a diamond. Can you find that one? Here's the rhombus. A rhombus is kind of like a, sort of like a square turned on its side. And how many sides does a rhombus have? A rhombus also has 4 sides, but does a rhombus look like a trapezoid? Does it look like a square? No, it has its own look, but it still has 4 sides like some of our other shapes. Which shape down here is our pentagon? Pentagon. A pentagon is a shape with 5 sides. Can you find the one that has 5 sides? Here is our pentagon. There's a famous building in Washington, D.C. that's named the Pentagon, and it is shaped just like this. It's a 5-sided building. Now we have 2 shapes left. Which one is the rectangle? Which one is the rectangle? Is this one the rectangle, or is this one the rectangle? You said this one, you are correct. This is a rectangle. A rectangle has 4 sides as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. But does a rectangle look like a square or a trapezoid or a rhombus? It doesn't. What's special about a rectangle is that these 2 sides are the same length, and then these 2 sides are the same length. That is a rectangle. It has 4 sides, which is the same as some of the shapes, but it's different. Does anybody know the name of this shape? This shape has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. What is the name for a 6-sided shape? It's called a hexagon. A hexagon has 6 shapes. Now, we're going to talk about just our shapes that had the 4 sides. So, I'm going to take them and I'm going to put them down here. And then I'm going to talk about another special vocabulary word that goes with our shapes that have 4 sides. Okay, so here they are. All of these shapes have 4 sides, but they don't look the same. They each have their own unique look, their own unique attributes. But they all have one thing in common, and that is that there are 4 sides to each of these shapes. A square has 4 sides, a rectangle has 4 sides, a trapezoid has 4 sides, and a rhombus has 4 sides. And there's a special word for a shape that has 4 sides, and this is the word. It's a really big word, and the word is quadrilateral. 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 And if you look at the beginning part of the word, which is quad, quad means 4. So if you like to ride on a quad runner, you know that your quad runner has 4 wheels. Or if you know some quadruplets, that's 4 babies born at the same time. Twins are 2 babies, triplets are 3 babies, and quadruplets, 4 babies born on the same day to the same mom. So quad means 4. So if I said which ones are quadrilaterals, you would say square, trapezoid, rectangle, rhombus. If I said which one is the rectangle, I could only pick this one. If I said which one is the rhombus, I could only pick this one. Or square, just this one, or rhombus, just this one. But if I said, well, which of these are quadrilaterals? We would say all of them are. They all have 4 sides. All right. So you're going to do an activity now where you're going to be looking at some shapes, just like the ones we talked about, and you're going to be naming them. So I'm going to put these up here one more time so we can see the difference in the shapes. Remember, a square has 4 sides, a trapezoid has 4 sides, a circle is round, a rhombus has 4 sides and is shaped like a diamond, a pentagon has 5 sides, a rectangle has 4 sides, and a hexagon has 6 sides. So I'm going to pause my video so that I can get your activity ready. All right, here's your You Try activity. Identifying shapes. Directions. Use the word bank to label each shape. Put a red dot on all the vertices. So we haven't talked about that, so we're going to skip that step. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at these 9 shapes. One of the shapes that we didn't get a chance to talk about was this shape. It's kind of like an egg shape, and that's called an oval. It's a little bit like a circle, but it's not perfectly round. It's kind of stretched out and long, and that's called an oval. So here's the word pentagon. I gave you some hints. I put a 5. Circle, oval, triangle. I gave you a clue. That's 3 sides. A hexagon has 6 sides. A rectangle has 4 sides. A square has 4 sides. A rhombus also has 4 sides. I didn't put the 4. And a trapezoid also has 4 sides. So you're going to look at these shapes. You can do this on a separate piece of paper, number 1 through 9, and you're going to write the word that goes with each shape. All right, and that is the end of day 2. Welcome to day 3, continuing our work with shapes, 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional. Let's take a look at these shapes that we've been talking about. Are these 2D or 3D? These are 2D because they have the attribute of being flat. They only have length and width. They have 2 dimensions. So we're going to look at each of these shapes and we're going to talk about angles and sides. Let's check out this shape. What was the name of this shape? Let's count the sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It has 5 sides, so that tells me it is a pentagon. It's the name of a 5-sided shape. And the angles are where the lines connect and bend. So I can see, here's a bend, here's a bend, a bend, a bend, a bend. And those are called angles. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 angles, 5 sides, and 5 angles. Sometimes we call these vertices. Vertices is where the lines that make the shape connect. Let's look at this shape. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, so it's a quadrilateral. But what's the name of this quadrilateral? Quadrilateral is a name for a 4-sided shape. But each 4-sided shape has its own special name. It's a quadrilateral and it's a trapezoid. And I can tell it's a trapezoid by the special shape and the way that the lines are set up. So a trapezoid has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. So that's how I know it's a quadrilateral. And then let's look at the angles. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 angles. What's the name of this famous shape? This shape doesn't have any sides because it has the attribute of being round. It doesn't have any lines, any straight lines. It's made up of a circular or round line. That is called a circle. Doesn't have any angles because none of the lines bend. All right. What's the name of this shape? Well, it has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. So I'm going to mark the sides. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I know it's a quadrilateral. But what's the name of this quadrilateral? It's a special kind of quadrilateral because all 4 sides are the same length. So that means it has to be a square. Now I'm going to count the angles. So that's where the lines meet and bend. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It has 4 sides and it has 4 angles. What is the name of this one? Well, if I count the sides, I can figure it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The name for a six-sided shape is a hexagon. How many angles does it have? If it has 6 sides, how many angles do you think it has? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 sides, 6 angles. Oh, what's the name of this shape? It has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, so it is a quadrilateral. But what is the name of this quadrilateral? It is a rhombus, and it looks like a diamond. How many angles does it have? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 sides, 4 angles. What's the name of this special shape? Well, it has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, so I know that it's a quadrilateral, but it's got another name as well. These two lines are the same length, and these two are the same length. So it has 2 sides the same, and these 2 sides the same. And these 2 lines are longer than the side lines. That is called a rectangle. Now let's count the angles. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 sides, 4 angles. So these are all your 2-dimensional shapes. They're made up of lines and angles, except for the circle. The circle's a really special one because it's just made of one curved line. All right. Okay, boys and girls, you are going to give this a try. I am going to give you a set of shapes that are very similar, and you are going to count the sides and the angles, and you're going to identify the name of the shape. So I'm going to get that ready for you. Hey, boys and girls, I just wanted to show you we had a secret guest. This is Mr. Benny the cat. And it's really, really hot today, so he came up here to try to get cooled off. Where is he? Yep, and he fell asleep. He's not really paying attention and learning about shapes. He's too busy taking a nap. All right. We had a shape hiding on us that I didn't tell you about yet. What's the name of this shape here? This shape has 3 sides and it has 3 angles. So 1, 2, 3 sides and 1, 2, 3 angles. We call a 3-sided shape like this a triangle. So here is your assignment. You are going to name that flat 2D shape. Count how many sides and angles and identify the shape. So on a separate piece of paper, you can number 1 to 9. For number 1, you're going to tell me how many sides, how many angles, and the name of the shape. Over here is a word bank that has all the names. Circle, triangle, rhombus, hexagon, pentagon, square. So those are the names of the shapes that you're going to use. There's more than one of some of the shapes. So count the number of sides. It may be the same type of shape more than once on the paper. Okay. We will see you next time. It's day 4 of our geometry work with 2D and 3D shapes. We're going to do a little review of this big word right here. This word is quadrilaterals. Remember, we talked about quad, what that means. It means 4. Quad is another word for 4. So we're going to go through some 2-dimensional shapes, and we're going to figure out if they are quadrilaterals. So let's look at this shape first. How many sides does it have? It has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. So is this a quadrilateral? Yes, it is. It's called a rhombus. Let's look at this one. Is this a quadrilateral? Count the sides. 1, 2, 3, 4. It is a quadrilateral. Do you know the name of it? That is called a trapezoid. Is this shape a quadrilateral? Does it have 4 sides? No, it doesn't have any sides because it's round, it's curved. This is a circle. It's not a quadrilateral, so we can't put that one up. How many sides does this shape have? This shape has 1, 2, 3 sides. Is it a quadrilateral if it only has 3 sides? No, a quadrilateral has to have 4 sides. This triangle only has 3 sides, so it cannot go up there. How many sides does this shape have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 sides. That means it's a pentagon. Is a pentagon a quadrilateral? No, it doesn't have 4 sides. Let's look at this one. This shape has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. Is a 6-sided shape called a hexagon a quadrilateral? Nope. It has to have 4 sides. How about this shape? It has 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, 4. That means it is a quadrilateral. What is the name of that quadrilateral? That is a rectangle. One more. Is this a quadrilateral? Count the sides. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 sides. Quad means 4. Yes, it is. And the name of this shape is a square. So here we have 4 quadrilaterals. A rhombus, trapezoid, rectangle, and a square. All quadrilaterals. All right, we're going to talk about another vocabulary word from our geometry unit. Geometry is the study of shapes and angles. We talked about quadrilateral, meaning a 4-sided shape. Today we're going to talk about the word congruent. The word congruent means that shapes would have the same shape and size. If they do, if you're looking at 2 shapes and they're the same shape and the same size, you would say yes, they are congruent. If they're different sizes, they are not congruent. Okay, so let's look at this set of shapes. I can see that they're both circles. So they are both circles. So they're the same shape, but are they the same size? No, they are not. So these 2 circles are not congruent. Let's look at these 2 shapes. They both have 3 sides, so that means they're both triangles. Are these triangles about the same size? Yes. So these 2 triangles are congruent. I'm going to circle them. Yes, they are. Let's look at these 2 shapes. They both have 4 sides, so they're both quadrilaterals. I'm not sure if they're congruent yet. What kind of a quadrilateral are they? Well, all the sides are about the same length, so they're squares. Are the squares themselves the same size? They are. So these are congruent. Now let's look at these 2 shapes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. They both have 4 sides, so they're both quadrilaterals. I can tell by the way that they're made that they're trapezoids. They're both trapezoids, so they are the same shape, but are they the same size? No, this one's much bigger. So they are not congruent. So when you're looking at two shapes, they're only congruent if they're the same shape and the same size. That is what the word congruent means. Okay, let's check out these shapes and see if they are congruent. So let's look at these two shapes. Both three-sided. So they're both triangles. Are they congruent though? They have to be the same size and the same shape. Now this one's laying differently. This one I can see one of the angles is pointed straight up. This one's sort of crooked. But if I could pick it up and turn it and put it on top of that one, do you think it would match up? Do you think they're about the same size? Imagine you could just pick it right up off the table, turn it, and set it on top. Would it match up like a puzzle piece? I think yes. So I would say that these two are congruent. Let's look at these two shapes. Here I have a rectangle. I know it's a rectangle because it has four sides, so it's a quadrilateral, but what makes it a rectangle is these two sides are the same length and these two sides are the same length. So that's a rectangle. This shape has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a hexagon. A rectangle and a hexagon, that's not the same shape. Those are not congruent. Let's look at these two. Here I have a four-sided shape and a four-sided shape. So they're both quadrilaterals. When I look at this shape, it looks the same length all the way around. This one does too. So they're the same shape. They both look like squares, but are they the same size? No. So these are not congruent. Let's look at these two shapes. Both four-sided. They're both quadrilaterals. They both have sides that have this way is the same length and these two are the same length. So they're both rectangles, but are they congruent? Let's imagine I could pick this one up, bring it over here and turn it and lay it on top of this one. Or if I could pick this one up and turn it and set it on top of that one. Do they look like they're the same size? They're definitely both the same shape. They're both rectangles, but are they the same size? I would say they're pretty close. So these are congruent. So we're going to practice that more. Congruent means they're the same size and the same shape. And I'm going to get your You Try activity ready. Here is your You Try activity. It's called Mystery Shapes. Directions: read the clues, write the name of the shape. So here over is a word bank. We have the words trapezoid, square, hexagon, triangle, circle, pentagon, rectangle, rhombus. So you're going to come over here and you're going to read the clues. I have 3 sides. Who am I? And you're going to pick the word that goes. So on a separate piece of paper, you can number 1 to 9, and you're going to write the name of the shape next to each number. Now, you'll notice that some of the mystery shapes have the word vertices in the clues. Remember when we were looking at shapes, we said that the angles where the lines meet and bend, those are the vertices. This is a side. These are the sides. The shape has 3 sides, and this shape has 1, 2, 3 vertices. The vertices are the angles where the lines bend. Okay, so you are going to work on this. Remember that some of these can match different ones in here. You might be using the same shape more than once, and there's more than one right answer for some of the questions, because we learned when we talked about quadrilaterals that there are many shapes that have 4 sides, okay? So if it says it has 4 sides, you know that there's more than one correct answer, but you just need to pick one. Okay, everybody, that is the end of day 4. Okay, it's day 5, continuing our geometry work. We're going to do a little bit of review about some different things we've talked about through the week. And then as a special treat, I have a new book that I'm going to read to you. So let's just spend a few minutes reviewing some things that we've been talking about, and then I'm going to read you the story. Okay, so you can see that over here I have my 2-dimensional shapes, and up here I have some 3-dimensional shapes. And up here I have the word attributes, 2D, 3D. Do you remember what attributes means? What does that word mean? It means words that describe something. So your qualities or characteristics. And we're talking about attributes of shapes, 3D and 2D. So we're going to think of some words that are attributes for 2-dimensional shapes and some words that could be attributes for 3-dimensional shapes. So here I have some different 2D shapes. I have a couple more down here. When we first started talking about it, what word did we use to describe all of these 2D shapes? Which word did we use? Do you remember? We said that 2-dimensional shapes are flat. So that is an attribute of a 2-dimensional shape. Now, most of these 2-dimensional shapes are made up of what do we call this part of the shape? Sides. And based on the number of sides, we can identify what kind of a shape it is and what the name of the shape it is. So the attributes of this shape are that it has 4 sides, and so that makes it a quadrilateral, and the name of this quadrilateral is a rectangle. And what I used to figure that out were the sides. So 2-dimensional shapes have sides. Also, when we look at a 2-dimensional shape, not only do we count the sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, we count the angles or vertices. So where the lines meet, where they bend, right here in the corners, those are called angles. And we also call those vertices. So those are all attributes of the 2-dimensional shapes that we've talked about. Now, let's come over here and let's check out some of these 3-dimensional shapes and see if we can come up with some attributes that these have. So I'm going to pick up this 3-dimensional shape. I'm going to talk more about these next week and work on remembering the names of them and how we figure out which is which. So this is a 3-dimensional shape. It has length, width, and height. But when I look at the flat sides of this shape, I can see, do you see how this is flat? And what is the shape of this flat side? It's in the shape of a circle. The side on this other side is also a circle. These flat parts of the 3D shape are called faces. So this shape has 1, 2 faces that are shaped like circles. So we're going to look at some of the other ones, and we're going to see what the faces look like on those. So let's pick up this shape. This one is called a cube. Did we say the name of this one? This one's called a cylinder, like a soup can or a soda can. This one is called a cube. It's shaped like a die or a pair of dice. You'd have 2 of them if you had dice. Now I'm going to look at the flat parts of the shape. When I look at them, no matter which one I look at, they all look the same. So if I look at this flat part, what is the shape of this face on this cube? all of the faces are in the shape of a 4 sides, all the same length, square. So this is made up of faces of squares. Let's check this one out. This one is called a triangular prism. Kind of looks like the shape of a tent. So here's a flat side. This flat side or face is in the shape of a triangle. If I turn it around to the other side, there's another triangle face. Now if I look at this side, this face, what's that the shape of? That's the shape of a square. That's the shape of a square. And that's the shape of a square. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 faces. 2 faces are triangles and 3 faces are squares. That's pretty cool. Check out this shape. This shape is called a cone. And if I look at this flat side, what is the shape of this face? It's a circle. So that's pretty cool when you can pick up the 3D shapes and you can see all those faces and the different shapes that make them. Another word that we're going to talk about with our 3D shape are edges. E-D-G-E-S. Edges. So if I were to pick up this shape, which is called a rectangular prism, you can see that here's a flat side, here's a face in the shape of a rectangle. If I flip it over, the other face is a rectangle. If I look at this face, it's a smaller rectangle, and on the ends, it's an even smaller rectangle. So this is made up of all faces that are rectangles, but they're different size. So that is really cool. Now the edges are this part right here. So there's lots of edges on this shape. Here's an edge, here's an edge, here's one, they go this way and in the back. So there's lots of edges on this shape. So that's another attribute that a 3-dimensional shape would have that a 2D shape doesn't have. So we're going to spend a lot more time talking about these attributes and working with our 2D and 3D shapes next week. So for now, I'm going to pause my camera and I'm going to get the book ready because it's story time. All right, here's our story for this week. It's called Even Steven and Odd Todd by Catherine Cristaldi, illustrated by Henry B. Morehouse. And we have been talking about even and odd numbers, and we've practiced that quite a bit. So here's a story about 2 boys that like their even and odd numbers. Even Steven lived on the edge of town in a 2-story house with a 4-bicycle garage. He had 6 cats, 8 gerbils, 10 goldfish, and a flower garden with 12 sprinklers. Likes those even numbers. I'll have 2 loaves of bread, said Even Steven when he went to the bakery. At the library, he checked out 4 books. At the post office, he bought 8 stamps. Even Steven loved everything to be even. There's nothing odd about him, his neighbors told each other. One day, Even Steven heard a knock on his door. He looked out the window. It was Cousin Odd Todd. Even Steven pulled down the shade and turned off the lights. "No one is home," he shouted. He heard 3 knocks. He heard 5 knocks. Then he heard 7 knocks. "Stop! Stop!" Even Steven cried out twice. He opened the door. "Odd Todd," said Even Steven. "What a surprise." "Hey, cuz," came a voice from behind 3 odd-shaped suitcases. Guess who was spending the summer with you? Even Stephen looked up and down the street. He looked behind the bushes. He looked under the welcome mat. He did not see anyone except Odd Tod. It was going to be one long summer. The next morning, Even Stephen got up at 8 o'clock sharp. He was very hungry. I will make pancakes for breakfast, he said. If I make 4 pancakes, I can have 2 now and save 2 for lunch. If I make 8 pancakes, I can have 4 now and save 4 for lunch. Even Stephen smacked his lips. Counting pancakes made him very, very hungry. He decided to make 12 pancakes, 6 for now and 6 for lunch. Just then Odd Tod woke up. It was 9 o'clock sharp. Yum, I smell pancakes, he said. Odd Tod rubbed his stomach 13 times. He went into the kitchen. Even Stephen was washing his plate. He did not see his cousin. Chomp, chomp, chomp. Good morning, cuz, said Odd Tod, with his mouth wide open. Even Stephen's mouth fell open too. He stared at the plate of pancakes. Now there were only 3 odd pancakes for lunch. What's so good about it? Even Stephen snapped. He went out to work in his garden. Even Stephen loved his garden more than anything. Today I will plant 6 rows of petunias, 8 rows. Honk, honk, honk. Even Stephen looked up. Odd Tod rode by on a tricycle with 3 wheels, 5 different colored streamers, and a horn shaped like a parrot. Odd Tod waved with one hand. He was not watching where he was going. Odd Tod rolled straight into Even Stephen's garden. Even Stephen's face turned beet red. 2 puffs of smoke came out of his ears. My prize 4-leaf clovers, he shouted. Look what you have done. I'm really, really, really sorry, Odd Tod said. I'll buy you lunch, he added. Even Stephen thought it over. It was almost noon. Odd Tod could not get into trouble as long as they were together. The pair of cousins headed for town. Even Stephen and Odd Tod went to the pizza place. I would like 4 slices, said Even Stephen. 2 with onions and 2 with olives. I would like 3 slices, said Odd Tod. 1 plain, 1 with extra cheese, and 1 with gummy worms. Even Stephen looked at his cousin's pizza. There were 9 pink worms on it. 9 squishy, wiggly worms. His face turned green. You look a little pale, cuz, said Odd Tod. You should get out in the sun more. Even Stephen and Odd Tod walked to the ice cream shop. I will have 2 scoops of double-dip chocolate, said Even Stephen. I will have a triple nutty fudge sundae, said Odd Tod. Extra nuts, please. Even Stephen went to look for a seat. Odd Tod bought the ice cream. Even Stephen took a bite of his ice cream. Then he saw something odd. It was the nuts. There were exactly 11. Nuts, he screamed. Who put nuts on my double-dip chocolate? Even Stephen's face turned blue. 4 puffs of smoke came out of his ears. No need to thank me, cuz, Odd Tod smiled. They were extras. On the way home, Even Stephen saw a sign in the flower shop. Perfect garden contest. Big prize. I have a perfect garden, said Even Stephen. It's perfect because it's perfectly even. He wrote his name on the contest list. Hey, cuz, check out this plant, said Odd Tod. Even Stephen did not answer. He ran home and turned on his 12 sprinklers. Then Even Stephen took a nap. He dreamed about winning the big prize. Even Stephen woke up and went to his perfect garden. The contest judge would be coming soon. Even Stephen counted his 6 rows of petunias, his 8 rows of daisies, his 10 rows of sunflowers, and 1 row of cactuses. Each cactus had 5 long, sharp needles. Even Steven's face turned purple. 6 puffs of smoke came out of his ears. "That's it," Even Steven cried. "I can't take you anymore, cousin. You are too odd." Just then the contest judge came over to the garden. "Odd, yes, but I like it. We have a winner." He handed Even Steven 2 tickets. 2 tickets to Twin Lakes. Even Steven smiled. "Now who shall I take on this trip for 2? He asked. "Don't worry, cuz," Odd Todd said. "My 3 bags are already packed." The end. So that was Even Steven and Odd Todd. Okay, everybody, that is the end of our videos for the week. 1 more week of videos to go. So we will see you on Monday. Bye, everybody.